Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, friends, and good morning, Sir Safrizal. First of all, let us thank God for His blessings so we can gather here today in good health to attend this seminar proposal session. Let me introduce myself. My name is Anissa Naliniar, and I will be your moderator for today. We have 10 presenters who will present their research proposal. Now, let's begin our seminar. For the first presenter, I would like to invite Erita Natalia. Erita Natalia, screen and time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Anissa. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erita Natalia Bermanisanulu. So today I will present my research proposal, the correlation between quizzes usage frequency and students' vocabulary retention among high school students. Next slide, please. Okay, so here the background of the problem. Why did I choose this topic? It's because the main challenge is that many high school students struggle to remember English vocabulary for a long time. They often memorize words for a test but forget them right after. So it's called the forgetting curve. While we know quizzes is a fun gamified tool, so we don't yet have enough data to often students need to use it actually keep those words in their long-term memory. Next slide, please. Okay, based on that, I want to answer 4 main questions, such as how often do students actually use quizzes? The second one is what are their vocabulary retention scores? The third one is there a significant relationship between how often they use it and how much they remember? And the last one is how strong is that relationship? Next slide, please. Okay, here my research objective. The goals of my research are I want to describe the usage profile, measure the retention score, investigate the correlation between them, and determine if usage frequency can actually predict how well a student remembers vocabulary. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the research significance. So my research is important for several groups, such as theoretically, it provides proof for theories like space repetition. For teachers, it helps them to know how many quizzes assignment are just right for memory. And for students, it helps them to become more independent learners. Next slide, please. Okay, here the literature review. So my research is built on established theory like depth of processing and the retrieval practice effect. So basically when students use quizzes, they are not just reading it, but they also actively recalling information which makes the memory stronger. So previous study by Nigo and Tran 2022 and Pamungkas 2024 also show that gamified tools lead to better lexicon retention. Next slide, please. Okay, here my conceptual framework. So the gamified design of quizzes leads to increased usage when students use it frequently. Then they enhance and distribute retrieval, which ultimately leads to better vocabulary retention. Next slide. So this is my hypothesis. I have 2 hypotheses. The first one is the null hypothesis. It means there's no significant correlation between quizzes usage frequency and students' vocabulary retention among high school students. And the second hypothesis is the alternative hypothesis. It means there's a significant positive correlation between quizzes usage frequency and students' vocabulary retention. Next slide. Okay, so I expect that the more students use quizzes, the better they will remember their vocabulary. Then I will use quantitative correlation design for the method. The sample, I will use 35 students from grade 11. And for the instruments, I will use a questionnaire to track how often they use quizzes and 50 items tasks to measure their memory after 3 until 4 weeks. And for the analysis, I will use SPSS to run Pearson R to see the strength of the relationship. Next slide. So here are my target audience, schedule, and reference. Okay, here is my 5-page activity schedule, starting from getting permission to final reporting. My reference include expert in linguistic and educational technology like Turnberry and Badley. Okay, that's bring me into the end of my presentation. I'm opening to any questions, comment, or suggestion on Q&A session later. Thank you so much for your time and attention. Good afternoon.
All right. Thank you, Erita, for your presentations. Now, I would like to invite the second presenter. Indah, screen and time is yours.
Okay, good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Anissa, for the opportunity given to me. My name is Indah Faradila, and today I would like to present my research proposal entitled The Influence of Flock-Based Learning and Student Speaking Strategies on Second Semester Student Speaking Performance. Can next slide, please? Okay, for the background of the study, speaking skill importance. Speaking is critical for English learners as it enables them to share ideas and communicate effectively both in education and workplace. EFL challenge. Learners face obstacles such as lack of vocabulary, fear of error, lack of confidence, and limited speaking practice opportunities. Technology integration, digital media, and flock-based learning offer innovative solutions to create interactive student-centered learning contexts that encourage speaking development. Next slide, please. Okay, for the problem, why flock-based learning matters, conventional teaching practice emphasizes grammar and reading over speaking activities. Flock-based learning enables students to produce videos expressing ideas, experience, or opinions in English. This flexible learning context allows students to rehearse, record, and evaluate their speaking performance. Building confidence and fluency. Speaking strategies such as planning, practicing, and monitoring help students organize ideas and overcome communication challenge. This research explore how learning and speaking strategies together influence students' speaking performance. The next slide, please. Okay, for the research question, I have 3 questions. And then for the first question, is there any significant influence on student speaking performance by means of flock-based learning? And for the second question, is there any significant influence on student speaking performance by means of speaking strategies? And for the third question, is there any significant influence on student speaking by performance mean of flock-based learning and speaking strategies simultaneously. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. Theoretical framework or a key concept. Okay, for first is flock-based learning, a concept where students create video blogs to share ideas, experience, or opinion in English, providing flexible practice opportunities and building confidence. And then speaking strategies, method learners use to facilitate speaking, including cognitive strategies practicing, metacognitive strategies, planning and evaluating, and communication strategies handling vocabulary challenge. Speaking performance measured by pronunciation, fluency, vocabulary, grammar, and content organization, indicating a learner's capacity to convey ideas appropriately using spoken language. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, for the research methodology or study design, the study used a quantitative correlation research designed to investigate the relationship between flock-based learning, speaking strategies, and student speaking performance. Population, first semester student of the English Education Study Program or second semester, sample can 30 until 40 students selected using purposive sampling technique engage in speaking learning activities using digital media. Data collection is speaking strategies questionnaire like Likert scale 1 until 5, and flock speaking task assessment, and then analysis by multiple regression analysis to examine the effect of independent variables on speaking performance. Next slide, please. Okay, for the research timeline project, total duration is days, sorry, yeah. It's months, and then major milestone is ethics and permission complete in month 2, and then mid project review and preliminary result, and then final report and dissemination. Next slide, please. Okay, for the research instrument or data collection tools, speaking strategies questionnaire measures students' speaking strategies using like a scale 1 until 5, and then with indicators for planning, practice, monitoring, vocabulary, and confidence strategies. Flock speaking task, students produce a flock expressing ideas, experience, or opinions in English to demonstrate speaking performance. Speaking performance rubric, and then assesses pronunciation, fluency, vocabulary, grammar, and content organization on a scale of 1 until 5, or very poor to excellent. Provide an intimate budget table in the appendix, use institutional rates, and justify high cost item during Q&A. Next slide, please. Okay, expect outcomes and significant theoretical contribution, develop knowledge in ELT regarding technology, integration, and learning strategies in English language teaching. And for the next practical insight for teachers, provide ELT teachers with evidence-based method and strategies for developing student speaking skill effectively, and a student benefit over student insight into effective speaking strategies and the value of technology-based learning media for enhancing speaking performance. Next slide, please. Conclusion and the next step. Summary. This research explored the simultaneous influence of flock-based learning and speaking strategies on first and second semester students' speaking performance, addressing a gap in current literature. Expect impact result will provide valuable information for teacher and student to apply technology-based learning media and effective speaking strategies in English language learning. And call to action seeking approval and support to process with this important research initiative. Thank you for the opportunity, and then maybe just this from me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Indah Faradila, for the presentation. Now I would like to invite the third presenter. It's me, Anissa Nalainar. Right. All right. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, Prof. Safrizal. My name is Anissa Naila Yuniar, and I would like to present my research proposal. The title is The Relationship Between Social and School Environments and English Learning Motivation in Junior High School Students. Okay, so here are the background of the study. English is essential for global communication, especially we are as an Indonesian people. Education and employment. In Indonesia, it's taught as a compulsory subject from junior high school. Yet many adolescents struggle with motivation. Adolescence is marked by rapid emotional, cognitive, and social changes. Students become sensitive to peer acceptance, social identity, and external validation, making them highly responsive to environmental influences. So there are any social environment background. The first is family encouragement, peer culture, and digital exposure, and also community language. Norms shape motivation through social interaction and observation. From the school environment, teacher competencies, classroom climate, feedback quality, and institutional support significantly influence learners' willingness to engage and sustain motivation. Okay. So here are my research questions. The first is social environment influence. How do family, peers, and digital exposure shape adolescents' motivation to learning English? Second is from school environment contribution. How does teacher behavior, classroom climate, and institutional policies contribute to students' motivation? The third question is environment interaction. How do social and school environment interact, complement, or conflict with each other in influencing motivation? And the fourth questions, research synthesis. How do findings from previous research support or challenge understanding of these relationships? Okay. Next is objectives and significance for my research objectives. The first is analyzes social environment. So I will examine family attitudes, peer behaviors. Example is digital communities and youth culture's role in shaping motivation. And second is investigate interaction between the adolescents, explore relationship between social and school environment in junior high school for holistic understanding. And the third is explain school factors. So I will investigate teacher quality, instruction methods, feedback styles, and classroom climate effects. And the last is synthesize research. So I will integrate theoretical perspective and empirical findings from 30 academic resources. So the significance of my study is the first is theoretical. So I will contribute to second language acquisition knowledge and enriches motivational theories in Indonesian context. So from practical, I would like to provide insights for teachers, school and parents, and policymakers to create supportive learning environments. Okay. Next is social environment and adolescent language learning. So social environment provides interpersonal context for language exposure, attitudes, and beliefs formation. Learning occurs through social interaction where individuals co-construct meaning with peers and adults based on Vygotsky. So the peer approval, adolescents observe and model linguistic behaviors from friends and online communities based on Bandura 1986, and according to Fitriani 2021, parental expectations, supportive environments with encouragement and involvement enhance motivation and confidence. And the last is community attitudes. English speaking communities and positive social norms can significantly enhance willingness to engage students. All right. Here we are to school environment, teacher quality, and classroom climate. So, school environment shapes motivation through teacher competence, instructional strategies, and classroom atmosphere. So, according to Dorney 2001, positive classroom climate marked by engaging instruction and emotional support stimulates instinct motivation to the students. So, also there are the key factors based on Richards 2014. Pedagogical competence and clarity of instruction. The second is meaningful tasks and learner-centered teaching. And the third is autonomy competence and relatedness support based on Deci 2000, and adequate resources and professional development. Okay, here we are to the learner's motivation in TOEFL, our concepts and determinants. So the first is integrative motivation. So integrative motivation can desire to integrate with target language, community, and culture based on Gardner 1985. And the second is instrumental motivation, English as gateway to global communication and academic advancement. And oath to L to self, obligation and expectation to learn English. And then ideal L to self, future self guides, and imagine English proficiency in identity. So motivation interacts with emotional factors like confidence, anxiety, and self-efficacy. So motivated learners show greater engagement, sustained study habits, and higher proficiency outcomes based on Prativi 2021. Interaction between environments and adolescents' motivation. So, relationship between social and school environments is dynamic, synergetic, and mutually reinforcing. So, based on Bronfenbrenner, 1994, conceptualize development as interaction between multiple environment layers. The first is family, or the microsystem. The second is school, teacher instruction and classroom climate. The third is peer groups, the mesosystem, social interaction and peer influence. And the fourth is cultural ecosystem, broader societal expectation. So here my research methodology. So my research design, I would like to use qualitative descriptive design with case study approach to explore relationship between environments and motivation, appropriate for understanding participants' experience and perception and meanings in depth, based on Creswell 2018, and enables holistic capture of how environmental factors interact rather than numerical measurement. So research sites, I would like to do my research in junior high school in Serang, where English is compulsory subject and students are in adolescent stage, and the participants is selected using propositive sampling relevant to individuals for research objectives. So The participants and conclusion. My participants will be 6 until 10 junior high school students who are actively learning English and willing to share experience and opinions. So teacher participants, 1 until 2 English teachers who can provide insights into classroom environment and instructional practices. So my expected outcomes, this research will provide valuable insight to how social and school environments shape English learning motivation among Indonesian adolescents. And findings will inform educators, policymakers, and parents on designing more supportive systems that enhance students' engagement and outcomes. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you for the attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Okay, go to the next presenter. I would like to invite Mutia. Mutia, screen and time is yours.
Okay, thank you for moderator. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mutiara Fiza from the English Language Education Program Study at Sultan Ageng Tirtayasa University 2026. Today, I will present my seminar proposal with the title The Impact of Peer Teaching on Digital Literacy in High School Student ELT Learning. Next slide, please. Okay, this is for the introduction of chapter 1. This is my background of the study. So, our true knowledge about digital literacy in EFL continue to grow. Many areas remain unexplored, particularly the effect of peer teaching on high school student digital literacy in Indonesian ELT environment. But as demonstrated by Pardede 2024 and Fitriani and Rahmat 2025, a systematic review found that only 3 of 47 articles discussed peer learning with no specific study of Indonesian high school. There is a data discrepancy where digital tools increase engagement, but without pedagogical strategy, they widen the gap. This research is urgent in 2026 because the Merdeka Belajar Digital Competency Strategy is hampered by effective approach. Technological development requires critical skill, and peer teaching models increase ELT teacher engagement. So, the research literature show change in ELT post-pandemic where gadgets exist, but literacy is slow due to incorrect technique, collaborative limit, peer assessment only. So there has been no digital peer teaching study of ELT in Indonesian high school. Next, please. So this is my problem formulation or research question. I have 3 questions. The first is, what is the magnitude of the effect of the application of peer teaching in improving the digital literacy of high school students in English language teaching or ELT? The second is there any significant difference in the digital literacy skill in searching, evaluating, creating, and communication among students in the experimental and control groups in ELT lesson? Or third, which factor in the application of digital-based peer teaching have the greatest effect on the digital literacy of high school students? Next, please. Okay, this is my research purposes. The first is test the effect of peer teaching in relation to digital literacy among high school students in ELT learning. Establish the variation in terms of digital literacy among the students who are using digital-based peer teaching compared to those following conventional ways in ELT learning. Find important variable in peer teaching that lead students with digital peer teaching are more literate than conventional ones. Next, please. This is my benefit of research. The first is addressing the literature gap in the field of peer teaching and digital literacy in high school, English language teaching student in Indonesia, providing an easily adaptable digital peer teaching framework for high school, ELT instructor for the Merdeka Belajar curriculum, adding in reducing the digital literacy gap between students by means of peer-to-peer collaboration, particularly in regions where there is limited access to the technology. Next, please. This is my theoretical framework. First is concept of peer teaching. Second is digital literacy and ALT. The third is integration, peer teaching, and digital literacy. The fourth is conceptual framework. So for the conceptual of peer teaching is an approach where students learn from each other through interaction, explanation, and demonstration that's applying authentic language skill in high school ELT. So the important for high school student is develop a soft skill of leadership and communication specific to ELT practice listening or speaking through digital role playing such as Canva daily routine presentation, then teach peer with pronunciation evaluation suitable for large Indonesian classes like 30 until 40 students Merdeka Belajar. For the digital literacy in LT is the ability to locate, analyze, synthesis, evaluate, produce, and communicate digital information ethically and safely. In Indonesian high school, ELT, TikTok, Duolingo, and Canva are used for interactive material with the CIS aspect. There is information navigation, communication, content creation, safety, and problem solving. The research show that critical thinking in EFL is improved. The challenge of urban-rural access is added by Google Workspace peer sharing, in line with the post-pandemic Merdeka Belajar 2026 priority. For the integration peer teaching and digital literacy, as students teach each other using digital media such as peer review, vocabulary video, studies show digital peer assessment improve EFL reading and engagement and hybrid tutoring improve pedagogical knowledge and digital acting. For the implementation, peer A teach peer B via Zoom with peer B evaluate Zoom breakout room, making digital integration easier for teacher. In Indonesian high school, address the Merdeka curriculum issue with free tools, foster leadership, and AI active. For the conceptual framework, the theoretical framework demonstrates a causal effect, digital peer teaching, influence digital literacy via the mediator of ZPD and digital ELT tools, resulting as better language skill, a hypothesis derived from the research gap in Indonesian high school. So next, please. There is a research methodology. In this methodology, I use the quasi-experimental design, was chosen based on research meta-analysis of efficient ELT for non-randomized high school pedagogical interview. The experimental group received peer teaching ZPD protocol, minimal digital literacy in instruction control to avoid the Haltron effect. Next slide, please. Okay. There is the reference that I use. The key reference includes the Aula English from the 2024, the Fitria Rahma 2025, in the journal like 2025, and the others. For my hypothesis, the first hypothesis, there is a significant effect of digital peer teaching on digital literacy among high school students in English language teaching. For the second hypothesis is the experimental group, digital peer teaching, achieve more digital literacy compared to the control group in the dimension of searching, evaluating, creating, and communicating. The third is GPD scaffolding and digital tools, like Canva or Zoom, mediate concurrently the connection between digital peer teaching and digital literacy of ELT. Next, please. Okay, I think that's all for my proposal. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
All right, Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mutia, for the presentation. So we're going to the next presenter. Satzi, screen and times is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Satzi Muli Rahmah, and today I would like to present my research proposal entitled Student Perception of Using Memes as a Medium for Learning English Vocabulary. So this study focused on how memes, which are very popular among students in their daily digital communication, can be used not only for entertainment, but also as an alternative medium to support vocabulary learning in a more engaging way. Next slide, please. And then let me explain the background of this study. So first, we start with the challenge. Vocabulary is a fundamental component in learning English because it supports all language skills, including reading, writing, listening, and speaking. And without sufficient vocabulary, students will have difficulties understanding text and expressing their ideas. And however, in many learning contexts, vocabulary is still taught using traditional methods such as memorizing word lists or translating words. And this method tend to be repetitive and less engaging for students. As a result, many students feel bored, lose motivation, and have difficulty retaining vocabulary for a long time. And then they may memorize words for a short period but easily forget them because the learning process lacks meaningful context and emotional engagement. And now moving to the opportunity. So in today's digital era, students are very familiar with social media and digital content, especially memes. So memes are short, simple, and usually combine image and text in a humorous and relatable way. Because of this characteristic, memes can attract attention, create emotional connection, and make information easier to understand and remember. In addition, memes are already part of student daily life. So using them in learning may make the learning process feel more relevant and enjoyable. And however, despite their popularity, memes are still rarely used as a formal learning medium, especially in vocabulary learning. So this creates a research gap. There is a high potential of meme as a learning tool, but limited research that explores student perception and their effectiveness in vocabulary learning. And therefore, the study aims to explore the gap. Next slide, please. Okay, so based on the background that I have explained, the study is guided by three main research questions. So the first is perception. I want to explore how students perceive the use of memes in learning English vocabulary. So this includes whether they find memes interesting, helpful, or maybe distracting. And the second question is effectiveness. So the question focus on whether memes can help students understand the meaning of vocabulary and improve their ability to remember words more effectively. And third is motivation. So here I want to analyze whether the use of memes can encourage student motivations, interest, and engagement in learning vocabulary. So these three questions are important because they cover student feelings, learning outcomes, and learning engagement. Next, please. So in line with those research questions, the objective of study are first to identify and describe student perception of using memes as a medium for vocabulary learning. And the second, to examine whether memes can support students in understanding and retaining vocabulary more effectively. And third, to analyze how memes influence student motivation and learning English vocabulary. So overall, this research does not only focus on cognitive aspects, such as understanding and memory, but also on affective aspects, such as interest and motivation. Next. Okay, now I will explain the theoretical framework that support this study. So first, vocabulary learning theory proposed by Nation and Smith. So this theory emphasized that vocabulary is essential for both language comprehension and production. So it means that students need sufficient vocabulary to understand input and to express their ideas clearly. And second is multimedia learning theory by Meyer. So according to this theory, learning becomes more effective when information is presented through both visual and verbal elements. So this combination helps students process information better and improve memory retention. And this is very relevant to memes because memes combines image and text at the same time. And the third, the concept of memes introduced by Dawkins. So Dawkins explained that memes are cultural units that spread from person to person through imitation. In modern contexts, memes are usually shared through digital platforms and often use humor to communicate ideas quickly. So, by combining these three theories, the study assumes that memes as a form of multimedia content that is engaging and familiar to students have strong potential to support vocabulary learning in a more effective and enjoyable way. Next, please. And the next is research methodology. So I use qualitative approach, descriptive qualitative design to understand student experiences, viewpoints, and perception without manipulating variables. And for the participants, EFL students selected through purposive sampling who are familiar with social media and have encountered memes. And for the data collection, the first is questionnaire with like scale, and the second one is semi-structured interview. Next, please. And there's two data collection instruments. The first one is questionnaire designs. So statement using Likert scale measuring agreement level. So the example is memes help me understand English vocabulary more easily, and learning vocabulary with memes is interesting. And the second one is interview protocol. So open-ended question exploring deeper insights. And the example, what do you think about using memes in learning English vocabulary? And do memes make learning English more enjoyable? Next slide, please. And there's expected contribution. The first is theoretical significance. It contributes to English language teaching knowledge, particularly in using digital media such as memes for vocabulary learning. And for students, makes vocabulary learning more engaging and enjoyable through familiar, relatable digital content. And for teachers, provide insight into using memes as an innovative teaching medium to enhance student engagement. And the last one is for researchers. Services are a reference for further studies on digital media in language learning context. Next slide, please. And the next is research process. The first is data collection. Distribute questionnaire and conduct interview with EFL students. And second is data reduction. Select and simplify relevant information from responses. And the third is data display. Organize data into categories and emerging themes. And fourth is conclusion. Draw finding about student perception and meme effectiveness. So based on Miles and Haberman's interactive model for systematic qualitative analysis. Next slide, please. And the last is about conclusion and next step. So to propose this research address the gap in literature regarding memes as vocabulary learning tools by investigating student perception, effectiveness, and motivational impact. And for the future impact, findings will guide educators in leveraging familiar digital content to create more interactive, engaging vocabulary learning experiences for Generation Z learners. Okay, so that is the overview of my research proposal. Thank you very much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alright, Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Sadzi. And now we're going to the next presenter. For Fitri, screen and time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Anissa. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fitri, and I would like to present my research proposal entitled Student Perception of Digital Media for English Learning. So this study focuses on how students perceive the use of digital media in learning English. As we know, technology has become an important part of education, especially in language learning. Therefore, understanding students' perception is essential to evaluating whether digital media is truly effective and beneficial for their learning process. Next, please. So this is the agenda for today. There are background, problem, and gap, research question, objective, framework, method, and reference. Next, please. So for the first agenda is background of the study. In recent years, digital media has become increasingly important in English language learning. Many students now use platforms such as YouTube, Duolingo, and other online applications to support their learning both inside and outside the classroom. These platforms provide interactive and flexible learning opportunities. For example, students can watch videos, practice vocabulary, and access learning materials anytime and anywhere. This kind of learning environment allows students to be more independent and engaged. In addition, digital media offers authentic exposure to the English language, which helps students improve their listening, speaking, and vocabulary skill. Because of this advantage, digital media is widely considered as an effective tool to enhance students' motivation and overall learning outcomes. Next, please. So for the problem and gap, however, despite this advantage, there are still several challenges faced by students when using digital media. One of the most common problems is unstable internet connection, which can disturb the learning process. And another issue is the limitation of device, as not all the students have access to updated or compatible technology. Furthermore, previous studies mostly focus on specific platforms, such as YouTube or mobile learning applications, rather than examining digital media as a whole. And as a result, there is a lack of comprehensive analysis of student perceptions. In addition, there is a limited quantitative data that clearly categorize the student perceptions into levels such as positive or negative. Therefore, this study aims to fill the gap by providing a more complete and measurable analysis of students' perception of digital media. Next, please. So for the research question, based on the background and the identified gap, this study focuses on the main research questions. First is, what are students' perception of digital media for English learning, and are these perceptions categorized as positive? And the second is, are students' perception overall categorized as positive according to the main criteria? This question is important because it helps us understand not only how students feel about digital media, but also whether their perception support its continued use in English language learning. Next, please. For the research objective, to analyze student perception of digital media based on several fullness, which refers to how helpful the digital media is for learning. The next is ease of use, which refers to how easy the tools are to operate. Next is motivation and engagement, which relate to student interest in learning. And the last is accessibility, which refers to how easily students can access the media. Also, the study aims to determine whether the overall perception falls into the positive category based on the main score of the time obtained from the data. Next, please. For the framework, this study is supported by several theoretical frameworks. First, the technology acceptance model explains that users are more likely to adopt technology if they perceive it is useful and easy to use. Second, multimedia theory suggests that students learn better when information is presented using both visual and verbal elements, which is commonly found in digital media. Third is self-determination theory emphasizes the importance of motivation in the learning process, especially how students become more engaged when they feel interest and autonomous. These theories provide a strong foundation for understanding how and why students develop certain perception toward digital media in English learning. Next, please. For the method, this research uses descriptive quantitative design, which means the study aims to describe student perception without manipulating any variables. The data will be collected using a Likert scale questionnaire consisting of 25 items, which measure four main indicators like usefulness, ease of use, motivation, and accessibility. The participants are students who are learning English with a sample size ranging from 30 to 100 respondents. This number is considered sufficient for descriptive statistical analysis. After collecting the data, the result would be analyzed using mean and standard deviation to describe the overall perception. In addition, one simple t-test will be used to determine whether the mean score is higher than 3.40, which indicates a positive perception. Next, please. So this is for the reference. Next, please. Okay, in conclusion, digital media has strong potential to support English language learning, especially in improving student motivation, engagement, and access to learning resources. However, it is important to understand student perception in a structured and measurable way to ensure it is effective implementation. Therefore, this study is expected to provide useful quantitative data that can be used as a reference for improving the use digital media in English learning. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
All right, Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Fitri, for the presentation. Okay, now we're going to the next presenter. For Sasin, screen and time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Anissa. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Respect for our lecturer and fellow student. My name is Sasindiva Pebidwina, a student from the English Education Department, Faculty of Teacher Training and Education. Today, I would like to present my research proposal by title Investigating the Effect of TikTok Content Exposure on Grade 12 Student Pronunciation Awareness. This research focus on how exposure to TikTok content may influence student awareness of English pronunciation features. Okay, next slide, please. So, I would like to explain the background of the study. Social media has become an important part of student daily life, especially for Generation Z learners. One of the most popular platforms is TikTok, which provides short audiovisual videos that are easily accessible to mobile device. Many students use TikTok not only for entertainment but also for learning English informally. Two pronunciation tutorials, conversation videos, and phonetic explanation. Students may be exposed to various pronunciation models. However, most previous studies mainly focus on pronunciation platforms such as how well students produce English sound. Meanwhile, pronunciation awareness, which refers to students' ability recognize pronunciation features such as phonemes, stress, and intonation has received less attention. Thereof, this study aims to investigate exposure to TikTok content can influence the pronunciation awareness of grade 12 students. Next slide, please. Okay, So, research question is based on the background. The study formulates the following research question. There is 5 questions. First is, does the intensity of TikTok use influence student pronunciation awareness? And the second question is, do frequent TikTok users show higher pronunciation awareness than infrequent user? And the next is, does the type of contents, whether educational or entertainment, influence pronunciation awareness? And the next is, does the duration of TikTok exposure affect student ability to recognize pronunciation error? And the last is, are there differences in pronunciation awareness based on gender? This question guides the investigation of how different aspects of TikTok exposure relate to pronunciation awareness. And the next is research objective. Next slide, please. So the objective of this research are to explore the effect of TikTok use intensity on pronunciation awareness. The second is to compare pronunciation awareness between frequent and infrequent TikTok user. And the third is to analyze the influence of TikTok content type on pronunciation awareness. And the next to examine whether exposure duration affect students' ability to recognize pronunciation error, and last to identify whether there are gender differences in pronunciation awareness. Next slide. Okay, and next there is conceptual framework. The conceptual framework of this study consists of independent and dependent variables. The independent variable is TikTok content exposure, which include intensity of use, type of content, duration of exposure. And the dependent variable is pronunciation awareness, which consists of segmental awareness, suprasegmental awareness, and error recognition. This framework assumes the level and the type of TikTok exposure may influence student awareness of English pronunciation features. Next is research methodology. Next slide, please. This study used a quantitative correlation research design. The purpose of this design is to analyze the relationship between TikTok exposure and pronunciation awareness without manipulating the variables. The population of this study is grade 12 students at SMAN 10 Pandeglang. The sample consists of 30 students select using purposive sampling, and the sampling method allows the research to select specific participants who are active use of TikTok. So the research instrument, next slide please. The data will be collected using two main instruments. The first is Likert scale questionnaire. The questionnaire measures student TikTok use and pronunciation awareness. Response are realized on 5 points from strongly disagree and strongly agree. And the second is multiple choice error recognition task. This task measures student ability to identify pronunciation error in English words. The reliability of the instrument will be tested using Cranbourne alpha with a minimum acceptable value of 0.70. And next slide is data analysis. The collect data will be analyzed using several statistical techniques. First, descriptive statistical will be used to summarize the data, including mean and standard deviation. And the second is Pearson's correlation will be used to examine the relationship between TikTok exposure and pronunciation awareness. And the next is independent sample. The test will compare pronunciation awareness between groups such as frequent and infrequent TikTok user. Finally, regression analysis will determine whether TikTok exposure significantly predict pronunciation awareness. Okay, next slide, please. Okay. So this research is expand to contribute in three main areas. First, theoretical contribution. The study contribute to research in digital language learning, particularly in computer-assisted language learning and mobile-assisted language learning. Second, practical contribution. The finding may help teachers integrate TikTok as a learning medium in pronunciation teaching. And the last is social contribution. The study encouraged students to use social media productively for educational purpose. And the last is conclusion. So in conclusion, this research investigates the relationship between TikTok content exposure and pronunciation awareness among grade 12 students. By examining factors such as intensity of use, content type, and exposure duration, the study aims to understand whether social media can support pronunciation learning. The results are expected to provide insight for teachers, students, and educational institutions in utilizing digital media for language. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Sasin, for the presentation. And we're going to the next presenter. Diar, screen and time is yours.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, respected to lecturer and everyone here. My name is Dian Septia. Today, I would like to present my research proposal entitled "The Relationship Between English Proficiency and English and Teaching Confidence." Okay, now I would like to start with the background first. Next slide, please. Okay, English proficiency is central to teacher preparation of often measured by standardized tests like TOEFL. Proficiency signal academic readiness and language control, yet it does not automatically translate into classroom confidence. So from this statement, we can understand that English proficiency is a very important part of teacher preparation. It is not only about understanding the language, but also about using it effectively in teaching. Although it is usually measured through a standardized test like TOEFL, these scores mainly show academic ability. However, in real teaching situations, high proficiency does not always guarantee that students feel confident when teaching. This is why it is important to examine the relationship between proficiency and teaching confidence. Okay, next. Next slide, please. Okay, based on the background, I would like to explain the problem of this study. Future teacher display mixed profile. Some possess strong English skill but hesitate to teach. Other project confidence despite limited proficiency. This mismatch affect lesson delivery and professional development needs. This means that students have different combination of ability and confidence. Some students are strong in English but still feel nervous when they have to teach. On the other hand, some students feel confident, but their English proficiency is still limited. This mismatch may affect how they teach and also their development as future teachers. Based on this problem, I reviewed previous studies to find the research gap. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Here, the research gap exciting literature emphasize micro-teaching, mentoring, and self-esteem. Few studies directly examine how measure language proficiency related to teachers' confidence in instructional settings. Previous studies have discussed teaching confidence, but they mostly focus on factors like micro-teaching, mentoring, or self-esteem. However, there are still limited studies that directly examine the relationship between English proficiency and teaching confidence. Therefore, this study aims to fill that gap. Based on this gap, the research questions are formulated as follows. Next slide, please. Okay, here I have two questions for this study. First one is there a relationship between English proficiency and teaching confidence? And number two, to what extent does English proficiency influence teaching confidence? Okay, these research questions are designed to guide the study. The first question focuses on identify whether a relationship exists, and the second one is focus on measuring how strong the influence is. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, in this line, in line with this question, the objectives of this study are as follows. The study objective, clarify the link between proficiency and confidence, quantify influence to inform teaching preparation. Okay, the objectives are directly related to the research question. The first is to identify the relationship, and the second is to measure the magnitude of the influence. So, to support this study, I use the following theoretical foundation. Next slide, please. Okay, here I have a theoretical foundation from Chanel, Swen, and Bandura. Okay, the first is framework from Chanel and Swen. Communication competence, ground English proficient structure, and from Bandura is about self-efficacy, frames teaching confidence. So the hypothesis is greater proficiency supports stronger self-efficacy for teaching tasks. This study is based on two main theories. The first explains English proficiency through communication competence, and the second explains teaching confidence through self-efficacy, which is about belief in one's ability. Based on these theories, it is assumed that proficiency may influence confidence. To examine this assumption, I use the following research methodology. In the next slide, please. Okay, here the methodology. The research is about quantitative and correlation study. Participants 30 until 50 English education students selected via purposive sampling. and the analysis is about correlation coefficient and effect size estimate to assess relationship. The study use a quantitative correlation design, of course, which meant it focused on identifying relationship between variables. It does not involve any treatment, but only analyzes exciting data. The participants are selected based on specific criteria using purposive sampling. Okay, next, please. Okay, the instrument. I have two type. The first is English proficiency test. This and the second is teaching confidence questionnaire. The first instrument is used to measure student English proficiency with TOEFL, something like TOEFL or EOC. And then for the second instrument is questionnaire that measure teaching confidence using a Likert scale. It includes statements related to teaching activities so students can express their level of confidence. Okay, next please. Okay, in general, the study focused on understanding the relationship between English proficiency and teaching confidence. It is expected to contribute to better preparation for future English teacher. That's all from me. Thank you for attention. Good afternoon.
All right, good afternoon to Diyar. Thank you for the presentation. Now we were moving into the next presenter. Nadia, screen and time is yours.
Okay. Thank you, Anissa. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Nadia Rizwa. Today, I would like to present my seminar proposal. The title is The Relationship Between Duolingo Strict Pressure and Students' Motivation to Learn English. So, for the next, please. So, the first is about background, problem, and gap. So, in the study, I start from the fact that Duolingo is widely used, especially because of its gamification features like the streak system. This feature helps students can stay consistent in learning. However, in some cases, students may feel pressure to maintain their streak, especially when they have already built a long streak. Most previous students focus on motivation and engagement, but they rarely discuss the pressure caused by the streak system. Therefore, in this study, focus on how streak pressure relates to student motivation. The next. So, this is research question. So there are three research questions. The first is there a relationship between Duolingo streak, pressure, and students' motivation? The second to what extent does strict pressure predict students' motivation? And the last is there a difference in motivation between high and low strict pressure students? The next, please. So this for objective. So the first objective is to find out whether there significant relationship between Duolingo strict pressure and students' motivation to learn English. So the second, to examine how to what extent strict pressure can predict students' motivation, and the third is to identify whether there are significant differences in motivation between students with high and low strict pressure. The objective of this study are aligned with this question, which focus on examining the relationship and predictive effect and differences between groups. The next, please. So is from chapter 2. There is theoretical framework and hypothesis. So this study is mainly based on two theories. The first is gamification theory, and the second is self-determination determination theory. So in the first is gamification theory, which explain how game-like elements such as point, reward, and streak can increase user engagement and motivation in learning. So for the second is self-determination theory, which explain that motivation is influenced by both internal and external factors. It also suggests that too much external pressure may reduce intrinsic motivation. Based on these theories, the study proposed there three hypotheses, including the existence of relationship, predictive effect, and group differences between group. So for the next, so conceptual framework and previous studies. In this study, Duolingo strict pressure is treated as the independent variable, while students' motivation to learn English is dependent variable. So previous studies have shown that strict can increase motivation and engagement. However, they also indicate the strict may create emotional pressure such as anxiety or sense of obligation. Therefore, this study aims to further examine whether this pressure has positive or negative effect on student motivation. The next, please. So for the last is methodology. So in this study uses quantitative correlational research design as it aims to examine the relationship between two variables. The participant are university students who actively use Duolingo, and they are selected use purpose sampling. The expected sample size around from 50 to 100 students. So for data collection, use Google Form. So the data will collected use questionnaire with a Likert scale, which measure both strict pressure and learning motivation. So for data analysis, this study will use percent correlation to examine the relationship, linear regression to measure the predictive effect, and an independent sample t-test to compare groups. Next. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alright, Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Nadia, for the presentation.
Okay. Um,
Next one is data analysis. After collecting the data, the researcher or I will analyze them through several steps. First, organizing observation notes, recordings, transcribes, and plotting tables. Second, identifying code switching, instances used by lectures. The next step is classifying the data into type switching, intersential switching, intrasential switching. And the last one, analyzing communicative functions such as clarification, emphasis, politeness, classroom management. And finally, interpreting why lectures choose English or Bahasa in specific classroom situations. The coding sheet included in the appendix will be used to make the classification process clear and more structured. Next. The trustworthiness and ethics. So to ensure trustworthiness, the study use triangulation, repeated review, peer checking, rich description, and for ethical consideration, permission will be requested from the instruction and lectures. Participant identities will be kept confidential, and the data will be used only for academic purpose. So next. Yep. The expected findings to find that lectures use bilingual language strategically to explain difficult concepts, maintain classroom control, build rapport with students, encourage participation, reduce anxiety, improve learning effectiveness, and this means bilingual practice can become a useful teaching strategy in EFL classroom. So the conclusion here, bilingual practice are common and meaningful in English classroom interaction. They're not simple random language mixing, but strategic choices made by lecturers to support teaching and learning. This study is expected to contribute to both social linguistic and ELT or English language teaching. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for all your attention, and I highly appreciate your question, suggestion, and feedback in the end or in Q&A sections. That's all from me. Back to the moderator.
All right, thank you, Linggar, for the presentation. And now we will reach to the end of the presentation. And I would like to open the Q&A session, question and answer. If you have a question to the then presenter, please go ahead with your question. Raise your hand. All right, Sadzi, let's just open your mic and ask the questions to the presenter.
Okay, thank you, Anissa. I want to ask question to Fitri. So the question is, what are the benefits of your study? Yes.
Okay, thank you, Sadzi. Anyone has raised their hands? Erita, if you would like to have a question, just open your mic.
Okay. I want to ask to Nadia. I'm curious, why did you choose the topic of your research proposal? That's all.
All right, thank you for everyone who have asked the question. For Nadia and Fitri, if you're ready to answer, just raise your hand. All right, Fitri, let's just open your mic.
Okay, thank you, Sachi, for the question. So the benefit of my research is this research provide both theoretical and practical benefits for several stakeholders. Theoretically, it contributes to the existing literature on digital media in English language learning by providing quantitative data on students' perception, especially in terms of usefulness, ease of use, motivation, and accessibility. And this can help enrich previous studies that often focus only on specific platforms. And in practically for teachers, the findings can help them select the use of digital tools that better match students' needs and preference. So the learning process becomes more effective and engaging. For students, this research can increase their awareness of how digital media can support their learning and encourage them to use this tool more effectively. And in addition, for educational institution, the result can be used as an evaluation tool to assess the integration of digital media in the curriculum. It can also support decision-making related to the development of digital learning strategies and facilities in the future. So, is it clear, Sachi? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Fitri, for the answer. And next, Nadia.
Okay, thank you, Erita, for the question. So, for the answer is, I choose this topic because Duolingo is widely used by students to learn English. So in Duolingo, there is a feature like streak. So for the streak feature can help students can consistent, but it can also create pressure. Most studies focus on motivation in general, but not specifically on strict pressure. So, I want to see how this pressure relates to students' motivation. That's all for my answer. Is that clear, Rita?
Yeah, it's very clear. Thank you, Nadia.
Okay, that's all for me.
All right, if there is no question more to the presenter, I would like to close the presentation. So I would like to thank you for all the presenters and the audience for their insightful proposals and all participants for their active participation and thoughtful questions. Hopefully today's seminar has been beneficial and has provided valuable insight for everyone here. Finally, I apologize for any mistakes during the session. Thank you for your attention. Good afternoon and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.